Yeah, Monday edition, orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew, Mason, and Mase. I mean, we were going to be busy anyway because it's draft week, and then Adam Schefter with a Schefter bomb? I don't know what you call it.
Chef bomb?
I like it.
It's got to be something with the chef, like something food related, right? Chef's kiss, perhaps? I don't know.
Chef's kiss if they do what I think they might be doing.
What you want them to do. What Sean Payton has done. What George Payton may not want to do.
Yeah, George is going to have a say here.
Yeah. What, if you're in the analytics crowd, I mean, this is the thing, and I struggle with this, like, because it's the whole positional value running back thing in the first round, let alone do you trade up for a running back? Like, it's parts of my brain are at war with each other, Cease. It's like, do you trade up for a running back? I mean, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard here.
Yeah, it's difficult to kind of predict what the Broncos are going to do, Mace, because Schefter's report today says there's not many teams that are talking about moving up, except the Denver Broncos seem to be the team that's talking the most about doing just that.
And here's the thing. Remember what George Payton said last week about the strength of the draft in the first round being in the middle of the round and how pick 20 was the same as pick 10. If the Broncos are thinking about moving up, if the strength of the draft is around pick 10, are you moving up to pick 10? Or if the strength of the draft is in the middle and 20 is like 10, are you moving up to 10 or are you moving up to 5? And that's where the whole thing of what Adam Schefter said about the Jaguars being a wild card type of team, it's where it gets interesting, right?
Yes, very much so.
And the Jaguars being the team that you have to get to if you're going to jump the Raiders, for Ashton Genty. Like, if that's who it's about, Ashton Genty, that guy that you saw pictured at the top of the show, it would be the Jaguars. It would be jumping them. Of course, the Jaguars being a wild card because not only do they have a new head coach and a new GM, they have the youngest head coach and the youngest GM. See, there are only 3 teams with new head coach and GM. You've got a new head coach or a new GM in other spots, but it's Las Vegas, the New York Jets, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, the 3 teams that have a new head coach and a new GM. Las Vegas, of course, their new head coach is Pete Carroll. So he's got 14 years of sample size. You've got a pretty good idea what Pete Carroll values. Also, you're not trading within your division in all likelihood. So you kind of rule them out as far as a team that you're probably going to be dealing with and having to kind of guess what they're going to do. The New York Jets, it's Darren Mugie and Aaron Glenn. Darren Mugie worked under George Payton. Aaron Glenn worked under Sean Payton. You've probably got a pretty good idea how they're going to operate. So the guesswork, the wild card is Jacksonville. That's what you're trying to ascertain here.
Yeah.
Will
they really be wild, Mace? They've got a lot to do. I mean, moving back for Jacksonville would make a lot of sense. And moving up to 5, though, would take quite a bit.
Probably takes your one next year.
I'm okay with that.
Well, let's start with that. We got a couple of clips from elsewhere we're going to play. We're going to start with this. This is from a show that's based down in Dallas, and the guest on there is Brian Broaddus, who's contributed to Cowboy stuff for a long time, actually a former NFL scout. And some of his intel around the league focuses on the Broncos and what he thinks Sean Payton might do. From that podcast, take a listen.
Everybody in circles now thinks that the team that's going to be potentially super aggressive will be Denver. And we'll see if Denver is, in fact, the team. We know that Sean Payton likes to come flying up the board. He's got a pretty good football team. maybe a next year's one is kind of a, he's like, maybe that's a late pick, in the first round. So I would look for Denver to be a team that might be aggressive going to get one of these running backs.
Okay, so if Sean Payton believes that next year's one is going to be
32.
Yeah. If he's got enough chutzpah to believe it's 32, or just simply believes it's going to be pick 29. And this is where George Payton's work comes in. And you and I have talked about looking over the horizon at maybe next year's draft not being all that in a bag of chips. And George is telling him, yeah, if you believe this is going to be pick 32, 31, 30, 29, something like that, and that might be like pick 50 in another year or pick 45 in another year, that you could rationalize moving on from that. That's the sort of thing that all of a sudden maybe you make it okay with George Payton to move on. You get everyone on board with that, right?
Right. And another quick thing on that, Mace, is George Payton has done really good with his first pick, even if it's not in the first round.
Yeah.
With Nick Bonito, holy bleep, Nick Bonito. It's like he's done a really good job, whether it's Marvin Mims, Nick Bonito, like his first pick has been money. So he is capable of maneuvering and manipulating the draft, even if they're not picking until 60 next year.
Well, the first pick that he had in 2023, it was a third round pick, and he bumped it up just a little bit to the late second round and got Marvin Mims Jr., who's already an all-pro, as a returner. There you go. The first pick, right? Inched that into the second round and came up aces with that. So, there you go. First, by the way, just to go through the first picks for George Payton so far, Pat Surtain, Nick Bonito, Marvin Mims Jr., Bo Nix. Whew. All-pro, second team all-pro, quarterback who looks pretty dadgum good after year one.
Future all-pro.
Ooh. You really said that, didn't you?
I said pick 32, so it's not the craziest thing I've said today, Mace.
Well, you said Sean Payton would think that, or did you actually say you think it's going to be pick 32?
Yeah, hell. I've always said on the air, Super Bowl 60 is theirs until it's not.
Of course,
because inside that building, they don't think they're a year away. They don't.
Are you back to talking about the dynasty under Walton Penner Group?
Let him get one first, but God bless America, I'm going to crack that open again. They get one. I believe in this ownership group, man, and they believe in themselves. They're, fans, many in the media may be like, you're a year or two away. Try telling them that.
Look, I had the conversation with Greg Penner 3 weeks ago, and he point blank said to me that if the season's outcome is the same as it was last year, that's not acceptable. Another wild card season won't be met with the same kind of satisfaction that last year's was. They're expecting more. They expect to keep climbing the stairs. I mean, I don't think they're going to sit there and say, okay, if they get as far as the divisional round, I don't think they're going to say it's a failure. I mean, but they expect to go farther than they did last year. I don't think they're going to sit there and say it's Super Bowl or bust, but at minimum, I think the floor for what they expect is one step farther. That's the floor, divisional round, for what is expected in that building.
I like it.
Yeah. So the floor is being among that last 8.
The Elite 8.
Yeah.
If the Broncos move up for a player, and if they move it up to 5, it would be Ashton Ginty.
Yes.
Depends on if you believe the Raiders stuff at 6. That went away, and then it came back. The Jacksonville thing wasn't there, and now it's here. We have to sort through what's disinformation and what may actually be happening, but there is a specific drumbeat with a tight end that, we keep hearing the consistent drumbeat. So if you're moving up, there's 3 players I think you could move up for. One's Ashton Genty. That's moving up to 5.
And maybe this is a matter of how far you can move up, who's willing to play ball. That, okay, can you move up to 5? Maybe it's saying, okay, the first thing is try to move up to 5. But it's got to be the right deal. It's got to be, Jacksonville being willing. Maybe you start there. Okay. They got to pick up the phone and do it. Because ultimately you can have a desire to do something, but you got to have somebody on the other end of the line willing to do it. It's not as simple as saying, we will do this when it comes to a trade. You have to have a willing partner. Maybe the Broncos could have wanted to move all the way up to 2 last year at the start of the offseason, but Washington wasn't going to move down.
No.
So, Broncos could have loved Jaden Daniels. They weren't getting Jaden Daniels. So you had to set your sights elsewhere because you weren't getting Jaden Daniels and you weren't getting Caleb Williams. So.
And where's James Gladstone come from? The Jaguars GM. He comes from the Rams. Yeah. What do the Rams do? Not all the time, but what do they do a lot, Mase? F them picks.
F them picks.
Well, I'm just saying.
A, they're F them picks. B, they don't mind shoving players onto the field, even if they're late round picks, undrafted picks, and sinking or swimming with them. Mm-hmm. It's a reason why you look at them now and they have an exciting young roster. One of the reasons why they have an exciting young roster is they looked at those 5th, 6th, 7th round picks and said, okay, our roster situation, our cap situation, our lack, because we said F them picks for years, we got to go with these guys. To their credit, of course, they had a quarterback in Matthew Stafford that could be the load-bearing wall in that whole thing, and they kept him healthy. And because they kept him healthy, everything else could develop around him. And because of that, they've been a playoff team the last 2 years while those young players got better with playing time. Frankly, I think it was a little bit of a lesson that you saw the Broncos follow this past year.
Kind of had to.
Yeah. Saying, play the kids. They played Devon Vele. They played Troy Franklin. Sean Payton played his young guys, I think, more than he would have in the past. The result is we got more and better data. We learned a lot about Vele. We learned a lot about Franklin. And how often have we heard in the offseason from George Payton and Sean Payton about how much they like the receivers? As we've said, they like the receivers probably better than you in the audience like the receivers, perhaps.
And they wouldn't have known that had they not played them.
Uh-huh. Play the kids. It's okay. It's okay.
The kids are all right.
Yes. So maybe it's a matter of, okay, starting there. Okay. Maybe you want to, move up to 5, but perhaps Jacksonville says, you know what? We got someone we love. We want to pick 5. And then you may have to go to your next plan.
7,
8, 9, 10, whatever. And then it might not be a running back.
But Colston Loveland, the Broncos have long been connected to having a, no pun intended, love affair with Loveland. But they went out and signed Evan Ingram and gave him decent money. So is that enough to take them off of Loveland if he somehow got to them? That's one of the little sidebars I'm looking forward to.
That, of course, is Daniel Jeremiah talking with Mina Kimes on her podcast, talking about Loveland falling to 20, but that came over the weekend after when I asked Jeremiah on Friday about the Broncos potentially trading up for Omarion Hampton, and he talked about trading up for Colston Loveland. And then he would talk about running backs, and he would keep pivoting back to Colston Loveland. He could not bring himself off of Colston Loveland. And then over the weekend, when he's answering a question, it was Mina's mock draft that she was going through with Daniel Jeremiah. And Jeremiah did mock Omarion Hampton at 20 to the Broncos. And yet in the course of that pick, he kept talking about Colston Loveland, saying the Broncos loved him. So is it possible, Cease, even though John Elway, of course, said many years ago there was no plan B, is it possible that Ashton Genty is plan A and Colston Loveland is plan B?
For sure. For sure. I mean, there might be a plan C or D there as well with this team. And I think that's wise. You know, the Elway plan was kind of seat of your pants. The George Payton plan, I believe, is very thorough.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, Hampton, Loveland, Genty kind of dream. And we got to talk more about Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon. Pressure abound for him.
Mhm.
So, defensive tackle Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant. I think there's, maybe sections of like, we'd like these guys first. And listen, if they draft a defensive tackle because they can't move up, and, you have to think about 13 with the Dolphins before the Colts at 14 would take Colston Loveland, assuming Tyler Warren's off the board. The Jets, from what I know, are waiting on Mbu. They really want the Mizzou offensive tackle. If he's gone, they'll go Tyler Warren. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe the Broncos make them change their mind. Maybe they go Warren. Well, that affects when Colston Loveland's going to be picked. We have all these dominoes yet to fall. And George Payton's not going to be sitting there, caught with his pants down, for lack of a better term. He's going to be ready to stick and move.
He was making all those calls last week. He's making all those calls this week. I mean, not that we know, but if you can maybe start piecing things together, perhaps it's an Ashton Genty plan A, Colston Loveland plan B, Omarion Hampton plan C, defensive lineman plan D.
Mm-hmm.
But you're happy with any of those plans.
You should be.
Frankly, any of those plans makes your team better.
Mm-hmm.
Are you happier with one than the other? Strangely enough, the interesting thing is, like, certainly of those, plan A is the most audacious. Plan C, if you could do it without giving up much to move up, or if plan C happened without surrendering draft capital, like if plan C, Omarion Hampton, happened and you got him at 20, that might be the best plan.
Mm-hmm.
If you got Omarion Hampton and you stood pat 20, that might be the best thing at the end of the day. If you kept all your draft capital and Omarion Hampton was there at 20, that might be the thing that you really like. If you could feel the best about like one thing happening, it would probably be that. Preserving all your capital for day two. Because day two is rich. You really don't want to trade your day two.
I wouldn't want to give up any picks this year.
Yeah.
I'll give up a lot for next year.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to trade all of it for next year because you like to have some capital. I mean, you don't want to total because roster building is a thing, but I wouldn't be alarmed by trading a lot. Like if you told me they traded next year's 1 and 3, I'd be okay with that. If you told me they trade like next year's 1, 2, and 3, I'd be like, okay, it's probably a bit much. I still want to have like I don't want to trade next year's 1 and 2. But if you told me like a 1 and 3 next year trade, I'd be fine. Like I've got a line. There are lines I don't want to cross. Right.
I could say the 2 was almost more valuable than the 1.
Yeah.
You can do a 1-3. I would actually like a 2-3 less because you'd go 1 and then 4.
Yeah.
So give me that 2 so you can get right back in it.
Yeah. You hate sitting out day 2. Although if you have your 1, but not your 2 and your 3, if things go a certain way, you can take that 1 and turn it into a 2 and a 4, and then you can start moving around. So
Broncos might be moving around. Kansas City wants to move up for an offensive lineman. The Eagles want to. You'll be shocked to know Howie Roseman wants to trade for whatever. But Denver seems to be the aggressor. If it does happen, the largest move could come from the team we cover.
Yep. The Broncos are the team that have the ability to shake this up, I think. But it tells you also just where this organization feels it is internally and how close they believe they are to toppling the Colossus in the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs have won 9 straight division titles. How many consecutive times have they won the division? 9 times.
I don't remember being sick 9 times.
That's because he wasn't sick. He was skipping school.
Yes.
9 times. And
Bueller.
Of course, Bueller, as Sean Payton would sometimes call Bo Nix. Sean Payton believes his Ferris Bueller and his team, with the right additions or the right addition, can end that streak. Here we go.
It's draft week, Mase.
You excited? Are you ready? Are you pumped?
I just want to take it all in, man.
Last year, this week changed the destiny of the Denver Broncos, changed the path. What will this week do? We're fixing to find out.
And as we do here on our YouTube journey, we need help from folks out there. Mase, how can people do that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never
miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mase Denver. I'm at Cecil and Mase saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.